believe that hopefully this time is working. I'm going to do something different here. Give me a second. Um, so I can see what's happening. Um, because I may just have to go into just like, oh my goodness. Okay, I did it. So you know what it was? It was Google Drive operating in the background. Yeah, all my files are on Google Drive. And so it was doing some stuff in the background and I had to turn it off. Forgive me for being a little late today. I've got all of this wonderful stuff planned today and I'm just excited for you to be here. Today we're talking about the world called you the shadow. We're entering into, it's the gate of Ba, and we're in the Shut, S-H-U-T. Okay, and that is the shadow, right? And I did come on yesterday and I talked a little bit about general perceptions of our shadow selves, right? So today I'm moving into a more focused or my stream of consciousness in this regard and the downloads that I have about this. And so, as you know, Tuesdays is always sort of situating it in contemporary issues, okay, in contemporary times, and we are not. It's not hard to find stuff to sort of bring understanding to these concepts. The Ascension path, power-profit.com, the path. So we're in the gate of Ba and Shut. We did Ren and Nomo last week, the power, the generative power of words, and the sacred energy of our names. And so now we're getting into that shadow, right? The Shut. And you know, on Tuesdays, I really like to try to bring these concepts into view with contemporary challenges, right? And, you know, my background, you know, really social sciences, behavioral health, a great focus on racial disparities. So for me, you know, in that 25-year history of looking at, I guess, foundationally racism, you know, it was interesting to try to see or extrapolate the idea of shadow as it relates to not only individuals and what we want to hide, those wounded self in a way, which when we get into African spirituality, really, which we're in, but when we talk about it tomorrow, it's really it's not about disowning or hiding. It's about embracing that. But how this shadow applies at a much larger level in our society, right? And so that's what we're going to get into today. All right. And I'm really excited about this. And I did want to, I'm bringing up two articles I was going to show you, but I had to get rid of those extra screens because I didn't know if that was causing an issue on my system here, right? But I'm drawing on two articles, news articles that are in the description. I'm telling you, some weird stuff going on around here. You know what I mean? They're in the description, but I do want to show them to you nonetheless. So give me a second while I do share my screen, okay? So, you know, the first one I'm talking about, and I do have to, oh no, this is not it. I want to get to a different one. Give me a second here. And then it just comes right back to me. Okay. So, and we're kind of focusing in on as you can see, we're getting into, let me just make sure this is showing on you the correct way. Okay. All right, it's showing up. One day when all the equipment is phenomenal, I won't have to do this checking. But, I'm drawing this commentary today from two articles, and I'm stretching it, from something that was said. As you can see here, this is from September 2024, where Trump is discussing Haitian immigrants as eating pets. And I want to start with a sentence that this grown man said out loud to 80 million people. Okay. So, in regards to this article, in Springfield, and, Trump says they're eating dogs, right? The people that come in, they're eating cats, they're eating pets of the people that live there. And he was talking um, about Haitian people, as you can see in this rally, which is covered by the BBC here. Um, and so, and so, you know, uh, oh, give me a second here. Today's just a really interesting day. I will be right back. I'm going to tell you right now, today is an absolutely special day. I don't know what's happening. And 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 for lack of a poor work ethic, I would just chill, right? Um, it's a lot of things coming in, a lot of different places. The energy is just really interesting. Um, and I'm negotiating it and navigating it the best way I can right now, right? And so I did forget something because I'm really excited about this today. Please like, subscribe, and hit notifications so that I can get in the algorithm so that if you're finding these videos interesting, um, other people can find them as well. Okay. And be able to see some of this presentation that I'm doing, and ideally not as sloppy as it's happening today. But, I guess I'm not the only one that has these glitches, because I was watching Uncertain with D.L. Hughley yesterday, and the audio was just way off the whole show. Half of the two of the co-hosts, you couldn't hear them at all. So I guess I'm doing a little bit better than that. Um, and and I forgot to get off my psychic line, so give me a second so I can take a break from this while I'm talking. You know, it's just interesting that For everything, every action, there's a reaction, right? And sometimes when we're sharing information, there can be an energy. I call it isfet. It's isfet is called the devil, Satan, all kind of different things, right? And I'm not looking at it like Satan or the devil. I'm looking at it like poltergeist energy right now. Poltergeist energy is, a glass falls down, a window breaks, the chain comes off the bike, like all these little things that are just happening all of a sudden. Um, um, is spiritual communication, right? Um, I don't know what exactly telling me right now, but it seems like when we are trying to discuss something that could be profoundly or have the capacity or the potential to be either disturbing or enlightening in its profundity. Uh, there could be some things happening here. Like my camera's like got me looking all weird and shaded out. So I don't know what's happening here. I'm not going to sit in that and I'm going to get finished, but please like, subscribe, and hit notifications, please, so that people can become aware of the channel and of the goodies that are causing all this stuff. So at a rally, Trump told the people at the rally and also all the viewers online that, quote, in Springfield, they are eating dogs. I don't know if you remember this. This was in 2024, I believe. He said in Springfield, they're eating dogs. The people that came in, they're eating cats. They're eating pets of the people who live there, end quote. And as I mentioned before, I pulled out to check my camera that he's talking about Haitian folks, talking about people. I mean, people. Black folk, kinfolk, right? Now this is across the diaspora, right? The African diaspora. But these are Haitian immigrants here in America, so that's still the African diaspora, right? And that was not true. And even if it was true, I can't imagine them just going up to some porch, picking up the cat off the yard and taking it in their house and skinning it. I mean, there's some cultures that eat dogs and cats, right? They're animals. In America, we act like, particularly dogs, are like babies. I mean, cats figure in there, I guess, although they don't get the farm fresh, yummy, good food that the dogs get, right? Cats are always like the second-class citizens. But so what? And they weren't. So, even the city, Springfield, Ohio, said so, that they weren't. Right? And the police said so. Because they went out and they looked. They wanted to see somebody trapping dogs and cats on the block and then doing what they do to them to prepare them to eat. So we're going to deconstruct this all the way down in a minute, okay? Deconstruct these narratives. But I did not open with it because it was false, right? I mean, we all know this was true. I mean, this was all over the news for a while when people were like, oh, aghast, like being gaslighted. They were aghast. And did I introduce myself? I'm Minister Dr. Akila Ka Ma'at. I opened with this because of the world hiding beneath it. Okay? They were calling a whole people a kind of darkness. Peoples. A savage devouring darkness. And that word, shadow, right? Names something in our own ancient tradition, my friends. And the Ascension, that is sacred. will see these dichotomies that are so rife in Western civilization create a dynamic that is rigid, inflexible, harsh. Okay? And so, what happens when white racism, and I'm just calling it out, no more they, them. I'm getting to the nitty gritty because this is getting really, it's always been really, but this is getting really, 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 right? And Black Americans have nowhere to go. Black immigrants have nowhere to go. We're here. We're here in America. And came here either forced, it was all forced, all of it. Or people are deluded into believing that there's some dream that can be achieved here, particularly if you're Black Americans or Black immigrants. Yes, it's better. But is it really? I mean, as we will go forward, we're going to see the shadow in the way in which I am casting that shadow today. So racism takes its own darkness, its own understanding of darkness, and hands it to you. Okay? And tells you to wear it as your face. But the shadow they put on us was and is. It's never been ours. It came from folks who, I'm going to say, were very troubled. Caucasians. Very troubled Caucasians. All right? They did it to Haiti out loud, and they've done it to Black Americans, Kim folks, out loud, right? They handed their own darkness to Kim folks and wanted them to wear it as their face, like the Black face on a Black face. The Black face is a caricature and stereotype and a structure of fear that is then placed on a Black face. And so as we arise and appear with the Black on Black, because we're not seeing, well, yes, there's some internal residue where we can see ourselves in that white Black mask, right? But that Black mask on that Black face is of the white imagination, of the white imagination, imaginary, that darkness. Okay? And so, before anybody in a suit ever turned the word shadow into an insult or into a psychological terminology, as Carl Jung, our ancestors had a name for it, and it was called the shoot. All right? And listen to what they meant, because it is the exact opposite of what you have been taught, right? In the wisdom of Kemet, the Nile Valley, your shadow was not a flaw. Now follow me here, because like I said, I am extrapolating to make a larger point, and I need you to walk along with me Okay? And so, in the wisdom of Kemet in the Nile Valley, the shadow was not a flaw, right? Uh, it was not the bad part of you that you hide, unlike Jungian shadow self conceptualizations. I talked about those yesterday. It was one of the essential pieces of your very soul that stood right alongside Ka, Ba, and the Ren. Okay? The name we took back together last week, my friends. The Ka, the bloodline. Remember? And the Ba holds, the gate of Ba is the Ren, the name, right? And the legacy and the ancestral situatedness and continuation. You know, and so the shoot in Egyptian spirituality is represented as a black Kim figure, right? It's a double of the individual, right? That is your shoot. And that is where, and that is what the black figure meant to them. It is your protective double, right? The companion that walks beside you every day of your life and shields you. It is the living footprint of your existence, the proof that you are here, that you are real, that you cast something into the world. This ancient wisdom believed that you could not truly be without your shadow. Makes sense? And your shadow could not be without you. You and it together are a critical component of the soul. Okay? So, to the people who built the first great civilizations on this earth, the Kim people, our shadow, your shadow, is sacred. Okay? It was black. It was good. It is the shoot. And that is the thing we are here to discuss in an interesting way. All right? So, how do we get from a sacred black Kim double to a debate stage calling us pet eaters? It's a good question, right? And that happens in two moves, okay? And both of them begin in the same place: white racism. Okay? I'm not usually as blunt as this. Sometimes we hear things and encounter events that demand speaking truth to power. And this is one of those instances where the truth to power is not disguised, it's served up in a platter raw. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. All right. The first move is the split. Okay. The split. White society built itself on a division our ancestors never made. As a matter of fact, we wouldn't have known about them like deep in the heart of Africa until they decided to traipse into the deep interior African continent, right? So, white society is built on divisions that our ancestors never made, right? Light is good, dark is bad, white is right, black is wrong. That simple. It's that simple. And under that one lie, everything dark got sentenced. Those dichotomies, which represent a lack of complex, nuanced, see reality for what it is, thinking, right? So everything dark got sentenced. Darkness became evil. Blackness became danger. The shadow became a sin. What's happening in the dark? Get in the light. You come in when the street lights come on. Don't be out in the dark. Right? So the very things that ancient African civilizations called sacred, Caucasians painted as the enemy. So now we have the second move, right? And that's the psychologist Carl Jung, and he called it projection. Okay. And I am going to borrow just that one word from him because it names exactly what Caucasians generally tend to do, particularly those that operate within a white racist or white supremacist ideological framework, whether they are conscious of that or whether they are not. Okay, that stuff that's not even reflected on, but that gives certain folks the idea that, oh, I'm not racist, right? Now, I don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable because by the time I get finished with this live stream, there's remedies for everybody, right? We all leave with a remedy. As I said, though, some things just need to be just set raw on the table. And today is one of those days. Okay. So I'm borrowing the word projection from Carl Jung. Projection is what happens. And everybody's like, you know, you're projecting your world, what you think about yourself, right? Projection is what happens when people cannot bear to look at the darkness inside of themselves. So they take that darkness and they cast it onto somebody else. Sometimes it's anybody, everybody, right? But they cast it onto somebody else. And then they point and say, there is the evil right over there. Now, hear this because this is like the meat and potatoes here. The shadow that got hung on Kim folks did not come from us. It came from Caucasians. It came from white racism. It came out of the savagery that white society actually did. The chaining, the selling, the burning of human beings, the imperialistic movements, which never seemed to end in Western society. Okay, the takeover, the dismissing, the denigrating, the castigating of folks across the African diaspora. Okay, so a darkness so heavy that they could not bear to see it in their hands. So they threw it, right? And that's the darkness with the chaining, the selling, the burning, the dehumanizationing, all the stuff, the killing in the streets, the detaining, the starving, So they didn't want to see that on their own hands, so they threw it off themselves and painted it onto us, that black mask from the white imagination, the ultimate gaslight. Okay? And underneath that racism is a fear. Underneath that racism is a fear. The fear was inadequacy. They could never admit. Okay? And that is where your shadow in this social science perspective, that is where your shadow came from, my friend. Not from you, from their fear wearing your face, from their fear. And it's worn on your face. So put all together, white people have already decided that black means bad. That's a through line forever. Okay, so the black body, it's the through line once racism, racial categories were created during the Enlightenment to justify just the abject dehumanization of black and brown peoples. Okay, so white people had already decided that black means bad. Okay, so the black body became the perfect screen to catch everything they could not face in themselves. Two lies stacked one on the other. Dark is evil, and you are dark. Both of them born in the white mirror that could not stand its own reflection. That is the machine. Now let's see how that runs. All right. So Springfield, Ohio, a small city, is about 60,000 people. And over a few short years, thousands of Haitians moved in there and did something remarkable. They took a city that had lost 20,000 people over 60 years, my friends, a place that was quietly dying. And they brought it back to life. They filled the jobs, they revived industry, they reversed the decline. Now hold on to that fact because it matters more than any other thing tonight. They birthed fruit in a barren space. Because in 2024, that is what they were handed in return. The claim that they were eating their neighbors' pets. And I want to be precise about how false it is because the truth is your power here today. So again, the articles I'm referencing are in the YouTube description. Okay, I'm not going to pull up these quotes because I'm concerned about the quality of the video. So according to the Springfield Commission, quote, there have been no credible reports or specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community, end quote. I mean, just the ludicrousness of having to even respond to something so racist and debased. It's an insult that I even have to read this. But this is real. There are no credible reports that supported that, none. And there was one case that got dragged in, a woman 170 miles away in Canton, Ohio, right? And the police there said that she was a U.S. citizen, born in 1997. And in their own words, the Canton police said, quote, "We have not dealt with any complaints of Haitian immigrants at all." So it was not true. And the people spreading it did not need it to be true. Even the National Security Council said out loud what it actually was: a conspiracy theory. And the NCS spokesman, John Kirby, said, quote, "based on an element of racism." I don't know what an element of racism is. They always want to parse what racism is. Racism is racism. And now the part I really need you to hear, because it is a confession. When one of the men amplifying this lie was pressed on why he kept pushing a story with no evidence behind it, this is what Senator J.D. Vance said, quote, "If I have to create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the American people, then that's what I'm going to do," end quote. Remember we talked about the generative power of words? They have incantation power. They cast spells. Create stories, he admitted, on the record to lying. And then he told his followers, "I am," and I'm quoting him again, "to keep the memes flowing." One of those memes, an AI-made picture built on the lie, was seen nearly 17 million times, right? He wanted to keep the cat memes flowing, right? And that cat meme was seen 70 million times. So look at what happened. White America took a people who brought a dead city back to life, okay? And hung the word devourer around their necks. The ones that gave life got cast as the ones who eat, devour, helpless creatures, property of other peoples. That's the machine. White fear handed Haiti its own darkness, and Haiti had done nothing but bring the light to this community. You know, when a nation cannot face what it has devoured, it accuses you of the eating, the shadow. Now I need you to understand what a lie like that becomes when you let it grow, okay? Because a meme is not where it stops. 2 years later, in 2026, here's the harvest. And again, this article is in the description. The protection that let roughly 350,000 Haitians live and work here legally ended. And the arrests began. That is a woman who runs a support organization in Maryland, describing what she watched happen to her community. Her name is Dr. Mary Fausch. Safe Harbor Circles, quote, "They've been arresting people left and right. We have people who went to the grocery store to cook for their kids and didn't return home," end quote. Went to the grocery store to cook for their kids and didn't return home. The head of Homeland Security was not shy about any of it. Mark Wayne Mullen stated, quote, "We're going after them right now. These individuals can either self-deport or we will arrest you and send you back. It's that simple," end quote. It's that simple. In Springfield, the same Haitians who had saved the city have started getting letters in the mail, cold ones. The DHS letter says, quote, please come to the office listed below at the time and place indicated in connection with an official matter, end quote. Can you imagine how terrifying? I mean, these people are terrorizing people. Terrorizing. This is terror. Abject terror. And it just seems that nobody can do anything about anything. The operative word that we keep getting is November, November, November. Come out in November. I know something that you may not know. We all being set up. Trump will seize control of this country. Right before, during, and after the election. And there's nothing anybody can do about it because this is America. Right? The Republic, by and for the people, which we all know is bullshit now, right? We have a government gone rogue, and there's not a damn thing anybody can do about it. Nothing. That, in and of itself, is quite profound. That is mind-blowing. That we have this, what I'm talking about right now, and a mountain of other stuff, and clear theft, just clear imperialistic maneuvers, clear destruction of American society, absolute destruction for everybody else who's not rich. And there is absolutely nothing we can do about it except wait for November. I'm sorry. Sometimes I just got to get this stuff out because it's blowing my mind. What I do know from my downloads and my visions is that America will be seized. And if you think what happened at the Capitol, and that was without an army, a paramilitary force. Now that there is a mass paramilitary operation who does not care about killing people in the streets, do you honestly believe that November is going to work? No, not at all. Not one bit. And there's not a damn thing that anybody could do about it. And that, to me, is hysterically funny. Because we've been lied to our whole entire, I mean, I already knew it was a lie because I'm Black, right? But people been lied to their whole life. Ain't nothing about this government by for the people. Never. Because if it was, this would not be happening. And if this was happening, there'd be some way to stop it. Now, I'm going to get off that soapbox for a second, okay? And I'm going to get back into this because all of this stuff, and I want to be clear, though. Trump will seize America. That is my prophecy. That is my download. With his paramilitary force. Even if we were believing that we're going to vote, we're cooked. And that's not to be disgruntled and sad and upset. That's just so you understand the reality of what we're facing, of what is here, what's always been here, but now has been allowed to become acceptable. It's clearly acceptable because if it wasn't, there could be something done about it. Why is my thing keep flashing? I'm getting off that soapbox. Woo! But this whole Haitian thing's got me riled up, thinking about this shadow, thinking about the Caucasian shadow, the shoot that they are afraid to embrace, that they are afraid to see. And instead of seeing it operative in their life, they cast it on to people that have no capacity to change their skin tone, that cannot erase their melanin. They kill. So, these Haitians got letters come to the office for an official matter. That is terror. That's terrifying. Okay? And the ones who reported in, they got an ankle monitor strapped to their leg to be tracked like a criminal. When a government spokesperson was asked about it, listen to the tone, listen to how light they made a family's terror. This is a Department of Homeland Security spokesperson. Quote, "It's closing time, which means you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. The good news is it's not too late to get a $2,600 check and a free flight home." End quote. They made a joke out of it. This is how sick these people are. $2,600 in a flight back to a country a Haitian nurse told CNN she cannot return to because the hospitals have been overtaken by gangs. First, they made them the monster in the story. Then they sent men to their streets. That is what the shadow becomes when white power assigns it to you. And you have no way to refuse it. Absolutely none. And I do not want one person watching to think this is a 2026 story, because that's the problem now. We take everything out of context and act like there is no stream of consciousness to it. No pattern. It's not just a 2026 story. It is a 500 and then some year old story. And the people living it right now know it. Only people that don't know it, I think, are Caucasians, because they have been trained, brainwashed to see everything as an instant in time with no historical situatedness whatsoever. Talk about internal residue and spiritual bereft, that your whole existence hinges in a moment in time with nothing behind it, nothing surrounded it, no attachment, no quantum entanglement, no nothing. And then we wonder what's wrong with them. I talked about it before. It's a very serious spiritual malady. Do you know that one of the Springfield leaders in Ohio said those ankle monitors reminded his community of? He said the devices call up, quote, the painful history of shackles worn during slavery. We got a high-tech shackle. Remember Clarence Thomas? There's a high-tech lynching. We got high-tech shackles. Now, we can't let this stuff slip away from us, move away from us like it just is. This is some radically disturbing occurrences and events. The people wearing the ankle monitors recognize the shackle because it is the same machine. It just came out in a new model. So walk it back with me, okay? The enslaved were cast as beasts and brutes. So the white men chaining them would not have to see the savagery in their own hands. White colonizers called Africa the Dark Continent and told cannibal stories about her children so that stealing an entire continent could be dressed up as a rescue. And Haiti, most of all, in 1804, Haiti did the most extraordinary thing in the modern world, my friends. A nation of enslaved rose up, defeated an empire, and made themselves the first free Black republic on the face of this earth. I need to check what I wrote there because maybe it's the first Black republic. I don't think republic was used back in ancient African civilizations, right? So maybe that is true. What I wrote, the first free Black republic, if we're going to look at it through Western terminology, right? And the world could not forgive her for it. Now I know people are like, oh, they're demonized. Look at all the earthquakes. Look at all the things that's happening there. All that stuff, and maybe even earthquakes. Who knows what's happening with climate change technologies? But just like across the African diaspora, everything is done to create and continue chaos, killings, division, poverty in these countries. Haiti is not protected from that. So they punished Haiti. The Western world forced Haiti to pay a crushing debt for the crime of her own freedom. Remember freedom, drapetomania? Some white man came up with that. You know, wanting liberty was a mental illness. So I guess Haitians were mentally ill in pursuing theirs. And so extra medicinal measures had to be found. Right? And so he's being forced to pay a crushing debt for liberty. And from that day, Haiti was painted as cursed, savage, and dark. The opposite of everything white, light, and bright. The one country that dared to make herself free was handed the whole world shadow, the white Western world shadow, to carry. And she has been made to carry it for 200 years and counting, my friends. Then white society ran the same script here. Okay? The brute and the predator of Jim Crow, sold in the movies, used to justify the rope on the tree, the welfare queen, the super predator, and now the devouring invader. Same shadow, new costume, every single generation. And behind every costume, the same white fear that could not face itself. So when you watch what is being done to Haitian people right now, my friends, do not see a moment, as I implored you earlier, see a continuation. See the newest verse of the same old song. White racism has been handing us its darkness for 500 years and calling it our character. As a matter of fact, they've been calling Kim folks racist. And for anybody who knows the definition of racist, Kim folks are not racist. They cannot be racist. That's an impossibility, improbable. It's illogical. So what do we do with all that? And I hope you followed me because, talking about projection and the shadow, Kim folks have been existing in the shadow, the projection of white, Caucasian inadequacy for thousands of years. Okay? So what do we do with all that? And here I have to warn you away from the easy answer, because the easy answer is a trap. It's something about none of this is easy. And it ain't going to be easy. Right? The trap is to rise above it. To say, I am love, I am light. I do not give that negativity any energy. I just stay positive. That sounds extremely spiritual, right? It is not. That is spiritual bypassing. It is the exact same dualism, light, good, dark, bad, that corrupted the shadow in the first place. Okay? You cannot heal this wound by floating over it. And you will not affirm your way out of a lie the world has spent thousands of years building. Hundreds. Lots of hundreds. A deuce. So is that a deuce? No, deuce is 2. Penta's 5, right? A penta. 500 years. Don't ask. Okay. All right. I'm smart. So here is where the world work moves. See, you got to laugh. You have to. You have to. That's not rising above it. That's like, I mean, look, I can see like maybe 100 years from now, a comedian just using this material and just having people rolling in the aisles because it is so ridiculous. So here's the real work. Again, I'm going to go with the moves. I got 2 moves for you. The first move is to refuse the false shadow. And many Kim folks already do this, right? The beast, the savage, the criminal, the pet eater, the invader, the curse. Hear me on this. That is not your character. But that is some internal residue that many of us get on the inside. And that is the internal residue that many of us don't even know that we carry. We just act it out with not even an ounce of reflection as to what is driving our behavior, the way we speak, and what we believe we should be doing in this life. Those things are not your character. Although many Kim folks exist in those boxes, because again, the propaganda machine, the messaging is nonstop. Non-stop. So the people who are walking in those stereotypes, that hatred of self without knowing it, they think it is their character, their personality, right? Those who are like reflecting on it, I just want you to know that is not your character, right? That is not your shoot. That is racism's manufactured darkness, born in their fear and their own inadequacy, and assigned to you. Excuse me. You recognize it, you refuse it, and you hand it right back to the fear that made it. It was never yours to carry. And we're definitely going to talk more about this tomorrow, separate from the discussion of racism, right? The second move is to restore the true shoot to its throne. And this is not fixing some broken part of you. It is not disowning anything. It is picking your crown up off the ground. Because many of us have bought into this Western understanding of the shadow self, and we want to hide it because we think it is harmful. But as we will discuss tomorrow, you don't hide and disown your shadow. You don't line up what you do with Western understandings of the psyche and self. They don't work for Kim people. Okay? You pick your crown off the ground. It is honoring the sacred black double, right? Our ancestors always knew was sacred. Your depth, your blackness, your protective shadow, and calling it good again. Protective shadow. That's a lens that needs a little more looking through, because we're so used to understanding the shadow self as a problem. And you are not alone in all of this, knowing all across the world, our people never split the sacred from the dark. In Yoruba, Ifa, the Orisha hold the full spectrum of who we are as sacred. The Congo people map the soul's journey straight through the dark realm of the ancestors and back into a new life. The Lakota refused to separate the sacred from the painful. The keepers of the Andes held ancestral power in the underworld. The Dagara of West Africa met their grief with the drum together. Every one of them is a witness to the single truth that Kemet set down first. The shadow is not a sickness. The shadow is sacred. And now, I have to say something that some of you will not expect me to say, right? There is a remedy in all of this for Caucasians too, for the very ones doing the projection, because the same medicine that heals us is the only thing that will ever heal them. Here's the truth underneath the whole thing. Their racism is a shadow that has never once been faced. Every part of themselves in a Blanco society could not stand the cruelty, the greed, the fear, the emptiness, the capacity for violence they could not admit is theirs. They took all of it and threw it on to us so they would never have to meet it in their own mirror. That's why the projection never stops. Not because they are powerful or supreme in any way, but because they are running. You do not hunt a monster out in the world for 500 years unless you are terrified of the one living inside your own house. And Carl Jung, we use him to discuss them. Name the price of it. He said, whatever you refuse to make conscious will run your life, and you will call it fate. A shadow you will not face does not go quiet, my friends. It drives you. It makes you dangerous. So a whole civilization that never once turned around to face its own darkness has been ruled by that darkness and it has handed the bill to us generation after generation. So hear the remedy, because it is the same one I gave you. White people have a shoot too. Every soul does. And theirs is not intrinsically evil either, although that is hotly debated in different segments of our learned society. It is just unfaced, sitting down in the basement, screaming to be seen. And the only thing that ends this, the actual end of racism, is not another slogan, and it is not our forgiveness, and it is not another thing that operates like DEI, for goodness sake. It is people de Blanco finally doing their own shadow work, turning around, looking straight at the savagery, the fear, and the smallness they had been running from, owning it as theirs, grieving it, and transmuting it the way our ancestors always knew a shadow is transmuted, by walking into it yourself, right? And not feeding it to somebody else. That is shadow alchemy for the ones who cast the shadow. Stop projecting your darkness onto Black bodies and go do the descent yourself. Take your shadow back off of us. It was always yours to carry. It was always yours to heal. And I'm not saying this out of some sort of hatred, for goodness sake. So beyond that, I used to hate. But that hate hated me. I'm saying this because it's true. And because the truth would set them free too. A person who has faced their own shadow does not need a scapegoat. A person who has made peace with their own dark does not have to burn anybody else's. The day that America de Blanco does its own shadow work is the day it stops needing us to be the monster. That is the remedy for them. And it is not our job to do it for them, my friends. Our job is to hand the shadow back and go tend to our own sacred one. Racism is a shadow the West has refused to face. It ends the day they turn around and face it, and not one day before. Now, let me bring all of this home, as you know I do, because you look off the news and into your own life, my friends, because you have been handed a shadow too. Maybe it was a family that needed you to be the problem. So nobody had to look at the real one. Maybe it was the room, a church, a job, a whole country that told you your anger was way too much. Your body was way too much. Your voice was way too loud. Your skin was way too dark. They painted a part of you back black and called it bad. And somewhere along the way, many of us believe them. And you've been carrying a shadow that was never yours. And you have been ashamed of a depth that was always sacred. Today, you begin to give the false one back, my friends, and you begin to pick your own crown up off the ground. And this is only the doorway. Tomorrow we go all the way in, my friends. I'm really excited. Tomorrow I'm going to take you into the chute itself, your sacred protective double. That black figure our ancestors honored. And I'm going to show you how to walk with it again and let it guard you the way it was always meant to. If today was the recognizing, tomorrow is the release and reunion. So I hope you followed me on that one. That was a little bit like threading the needle here. You know what I mean? And yeah. So look, today is a doorway. If you want to do this work and you don't want to do it alone, right? I share with you to, come on into the temple, right? This is the QR code. Join us. The community's growing. Join us in the temple. All right. This is where we walk the path together, guided together, right? You get live events, virtual events, and some offline events, workshops. You get a library of videos, not just me talking, but the whole library of understanding Melanin Metaphysics, right, is there for perusal without having to research there, research everywhere. It's in one space, right? So that's the temple QR code. Check it out. All right. And the second is tomorrow. I want you to be here at 2:30, right? When we go all the way into the shoot. I have not, or maybe I did name it. I forget what I called tomorrow's live stream. But I want you to be there, okay? So, last week they took your name and you took it back. This week they tried to make you fear your own sacred shadow. You get to refuse the lie and take that black double walking right beside you and embrace it, the one they taught you to be afraid of. You get to crown it again. It was sacred, and it is sacred. It's been sacred the whole time, and it is sacred today. All right. And so, my friends, so are you. Okay. Again, I apologize for at the top having all of those challenges, tech issues, but I appreciate your patience and I thank you. All right. You all have a phenomenally wonderful day. I'm going to have to edit some of this out because I went off on a tangent in between time. But I hope you enjoy it. All right. Be blessed. Thank you so much for checking out this video. I really appreciate you. Oh, and by the way, we hit 100 subscribers. Right now it's like 103, I think, maybe. All right. Thank y'all. Thank you. Thank you so much.